Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Got a couple of projects here in Potentia. I picked up a few more junkers. This here is a 2014 Kawasaki KX250F. I also have a 2001 Yamaha YZ125. The Yamaha does run. It's been sitting for a while. Little gas in the cylinder, couple of kicks. She fired off. We're going to build this bike. This bike, however, is the true definition of a basket case or a bike in a box. And I don't even know if I have everything. So we're going to start this video off by going over this bike, what I have, what needs to be repaired. And we're going to make a decision on whether or not we're going to part this bike out or we're going to repair it. And I'm actually going to leave that up to you guys. When we go through this whole thing, leave a comment down at the bottom. See if you want me to suffer. And if you want me to build it with what we've got, I'll go ahead and go with your suggestions. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and get this YZ125 inspected. And that's going to be a beautification project with a little bit of mechanical work. Stay tuned. Forks don't look bad, not leaking. Clutch cable's missing. Grips have seen better days, not a problem. We are missing the condenser. I'll have to go through these parts, but I gave a quick look over here to see what I had and what I didn't have, and I don't remember seeing the condenser. I also don't remember seeing the stator. Front brake lever's broken. And number plate is broken. All right, let me get some of these boxes up here on the bench and start dissecting some of this stuff. So we do have an FMF muffler. We've got the subframe, which is missing all the guts for the air filter. It does not have the fuel injector. The second fuel injector in the air box is missing. It does have the ambient air temperature sensor, or the intake air temperature sensor. Got a set of bent up aftermarket radiators, which you may be able to straighten. And look, there's our condenser. That saves some money right there. We got some kind of front brake that doesn't go to this. Bonus, more plastics. Got the old saddle. Very nicely wrapped header. Got our radiator louvers, protectors. So it looks like we have a stuck. Oh. So I have a piston with no rings. I don't know what brand it is. Probably garbage. We have a brand new cylinder. We've got a cylinder head. Looks like it's in really pretty good shape. Very clean. Now he did tell me that they just went through the cylinder head, so that's decent. And it looks like it's complete. No camshafts, but I did see them in there. And we have the coolant temp sensor in there. That's good. Okay, got a crankshaft here. It is not new, but it's in really good shape. No up and down play. That's great. We got our fuel tank here. It's got the pump. We're going to have to put 12 volts to this thing and see if it even runs. This is where it gets exciting. Alright, so we do have a fuel hose. I do not think this is the correct one for this bike, because this actually should Y off and go to both of the fuel injectors, so that is not going to be correct. We have some motor mounts, idler gears, tons of miscellaneous nuts and bolts, valve cover, both camshafts we do have, and they actually look like they're in pretty good shape. Valve cover gasket, free socket, intake manifold or intake boot, the boot. We got a Woodruff key, parts of the shifting mechanism for the transmission and the clutch. A whole bunch more bolts and nuts and stuff that needs to be figured out. Feels like an air filter. So we'll go ahead and replace the air filter. If we build this thing, the cage is in there and the bolts in there. That's good. It looks like we have a head gasket, but I'll just get an entire gasket kit anyway. More hoses. We have part of the clutch assembly here. More engine mounts and bolts. A shifter. Chain guard. Water pump guard. Broken potential adjuster for the clutch cable. Some hose clamps. Looks like we got a set of piston rings. A oil filter cover, pro circuit style. More nuts and bolts. And a clutch cover. So in this box here we have a set of engine cases. Bearings are all half fallen out of them. Bunch of pieces missing. So this thing's got a hole in it right here. We are missing our filters in the bottom of this. I don't see those. I don't know if these cases are correct. I guess there's some pieces of an oil pump in here. Alright, we got chain guides for the timing chain, camshaft chain deal. We got a couple of tensioners. Looks like we've got a gear position sensor. Clamps. Head bolts. Flywheel puller, free. Plugs for the stator cover, which is so far non-existent. Here is our second fuel injector. Yep, piston pin for the new piston. with our circlips. Nice. And here we just got a bunch of more nuts and bolts. Oh, I see. Our half moons for our camshafts. That's good. Yeah, some miscellaneous pieces here. Here's your crankshaft nut. So I was given another set of cases, the original cases that came out of this that are damaged. Kickstart lever. So it's obvious that the connecting rod broke and went through the front of the cases here. So these cases are no good. However, it looks like as long as there's no damage, that we've got a fully good transmission in here, and you got an oil pump, everything that we need for that. We'll rip this apart and see. Obviously the crankshaft's no good. We do have our flywheel, but again, I have no stator or stator cover. And then our last bag, a couple more free sockets. You got some counter shaft spacers, big deal. Seals in good shape. I've been needing an extension, another 8mm socket. You know, these things are hard to find sometimes. You lose them all the time. Well, we got the kickstart mechanism. Alright, so the case looks, this side case looks correct. Obviously we'll either weld or JB weld that up, that hole. I don't know why that's there. It looks like it's threaded, like somebody might have put a screw or something in there. I don't know, but this looks alright. So it looks like we're all up to speed on this bike. What we have, what we don't have. What would you guys do? Or what would you have me do? What do you think I should do? Now I gotta say, I purchased a bike for a pretty good price. Generally, when I purchase these bikes, I want to keep in mind that if they're not repairable, I want to at least double my money back in parting them out. And in this particular case, I would have no issue with doing that. However, I hate to let a 2014 KX250F go if we can put it back together, because I'm the Restorooster, not the parts bike rooster. So, but don't let me influence you on that. You tell me down in the comments what you think I should do with this bike. Now that we've looked at this one, let's go ahead and take a look at our YZ. Alright, let's take a look at this next junker here. 2001 Yamaha YZ125. This bike does run. The fuel smells like it's been in here for 63 months. It's loaded with the maximum amount of ethanol that you can put in 10% ethanol fuel. It's absorbed water. In fact, when I drained the fuel tank, there was water in there as well. Put a little fuel in the cylinder, kicked it. She did start up. I'm going to do that for you just so I can hear the thing run again. And then we'll take a quick walk around this thing and see all the stuff that we need to get to make it where it would be a pleasure for somebody to own. Alright, we'll just start off. The front tire's in pretty good shape, and it is holding air. I didn't have to put any in it. Obviously, there's a cover that's missing here, and this, he told me, is stripped out here, so we're gonna have to fix something with that. The upper supports for the fork guards is broken. The front fender's good, so we shouldn't have to do anything with that. Get rid of all these stickers. Again, clutch lever on the wrong side of the kill switch. I don't get it. It's weird. A number plate, no good. The fork seals are leaking. They'll need to be redone. So the front wheel bearing has a little bit of play in it. Typical Yamaha. And we actually have a little bit of movement in our steering stem as well. Although it steers fine, so I'm going to say we just have to adjust that and just replace these front bearings. I'm going to go ahead and replace all these plastics. They're horrible. Somebody took their time adjusting this chain to make sure that it would never loosen up again, or even roll for that matter. The back tire is absolutely done. In fact, the bead lock is above the tire. It's not locking anything, it's just holding the tire off the rim. So that's perfect. Little stubby muffler. Seat cover's got a little bit of damage to it, and if we're going to put some new plastics, we're certainly going to put a new seat cover on here. The rear brakes, not too bad. Probably let that go. We need to take this side case off and get all this yellow paint off here. Not sure what that's all about. That pipe is not lining up with the frame. It does not mount there either, so it looks like this pipe is probably not even the right pipe for this bike. And the grips aren't too bad, so we might leave those alone. Of course, we're going to have to replace this front brake lever. Air filter doesn't look too bad, but we'll just go ahead and replace that anyway. Yeah, nothing stripped out there. That's good. We don't have to worry about any bolts holding the gas tank in. That's good. Saves us a step. This is certainly not the right pipe for this bike, but I gotta watch what I spend here. And you know, if it works, it works. So we've got a peg here that's damaged, but I have pegs from YZ125F frame, which should fit on here, no issues. And that Kickstarter is a little wacky. It's not returning properly. And once we get all this stuff off here, we'll be able to get a closer look at what's going on in there. There's no bolts in here for the power valve actuator. Man, gotta love it. Well, let's go ahead and get this engine oil drained, and get this coolant drained, and get this side cover off and see what we've got going on in there. No oil in the transmission. Did I mention that this engine was just rebuilt top and bottom end? One other issue is the shift shaft is completely stripped out, so that we're going to replace that while we have that clutch side cover off, along with the shifter. Obviously, we're going to get into this carburetor and get it cleaned out and get all that inspected, and get the reed valves inspected and make sure that's all okay. Yeah, got the radiator hose is half hanging off the thing here and no clamp, so This thing was professionally built, no doubt about it. I must have worked on this thing at one point in my life. Seems like the more I take apart on this, the more I feel like the 2014 Kawasaki is the better build candidate. Of course, no pin for the rear brake. Well, that's hooked up. I was half expecting to that be just dangling in there. Well, that makes sense why the kickstarter's loose. It's not properly installed. We've got a broken something here. I'm gonna take this clutch apart and take a look what's going on there. That's all an absolute mess. So we're going to need a clutch, and our basket is broken as well in multiple places. So we got washers or something that are missing in there. See, the clutch basket is all destroyed here. This thing's really a mess. I might have to switch gears here a little bit. It's missing the little support here. You can see the splines are all chewed up on this thing. We've got a crack in our kickstart mechanism. Well, let me contemplate what's going on here. I may have to change my plans up a little bit. Alright, so while we're waiting on a majority of these parts to show up, get some of the small stuff done, like let's get some of these stickers off the tank, and I do have a new back tire and tube, so we're going to get that installed. The old trusty heat gun on low. We'll let that sit. We'll work on the other side. for right now, until I know 100% that this engine is going to be running fine. I'm going to reuse the old clutch basket, and if everything works out fine with it, I'll go ahead and order one. Putting that proper washer in there took up all that play like it's supposed to. Get these caps cracked loose before I loosen up the front shock absorbers here. Seems kind of strippy. To clean up these threads and run a tap over it. If not, I'm sure I've got other clamps that I can use. At this point, I'm not even going to mess around. I'm just going to go ahead and use a set of clamps that I've got from a 2003 YZ125F, and they should be exactly the same, so no issues there. And we'll go with fat bars up top. So I changed my mind. I went back with the stock upper clamp, put these bars back on. I'm going to save that upper clamp and fat bars for a different project. Now we get these forks done. First thing we're going to do is turn our compression and rebound dampeners all the way out counterclockwise. If you like the way your suspension is set up, count your clicks so you can put it right back to where it was. I'm just going to go back to a factory setting. Now, if your forks are absolutely filthy, go ahead and wash them down real good before we take it apart. I'm going to take these and put these in the parts washer piece by piece, and they're not terribly bad, so I will go ahead and just take them apart right now. This is going to take a 17mm wrench for this one, but we're going to pull down on this and hold this cap up and get on this little screw right here, and we can take our top cap off. And once you get that off, there's a push rod in here. We don't want to bend it. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Now we'll pump this in a rod to get the rest of that fluid out. Now go ahead and take your dust seal off, and there is a clip inside of here. Little screwdriver, you can get that clip off. Next thing is going to be just sliding this thing in and out with a little bit of force to pull the seal and the guides out. Now you're going to have your fork seal, spacer, and you got 2 guides on here. If these are excessively worn, you're going to need to replace them. Pay attention to the orientation of your seals. If you're unsure, check your service manual. Sometimes people redo these and put them in upside down, and you'll have the same problem. A good idea when you take these off, if you're unfamiliar with them, is to just line them up. In the order that they came off. Now, if you're just resealing this, that's as far as you need to really go. If you really want to get in here and clean everything, you can pull this bottom valve out and do a thorough job. We're going to just go ahead and clean this up in our parts washer, and then we'll see you back here and put it back together. Now that we got everything cleaned up real nice, it's time to reassemble. Now, first thing to keep in mind is this groove right here is not tapered. It is very sharp. And if you try to force your seals on, what's going to happen is you're going to destroy the seals. A couple ways to do this is with a very thin plastic bag. You can put it over here, slide your seal on. What I prefer to use is a bunch of different sizes. Are these fork sleeves that go over and cover it. Makes it easy, easy, easy. Once you get your seals on, you can go ahead and take this protector off. And we can finish with the assembly. Now at this point here, you're going to need a seal driver tool. They come in all different sizes. This one's 48mm. They also make a universal one, which doesn't work quite as well, but it does work. And you can pick one of those up so you can do many different size forks. Now once you're sure your seal is seated all the way down, you could drop your clip in to make sure it gets in that groove. I'll put our dust seal. We'll use the same routine here. All right, once you get the thing rebuilt, slide it in and out to make sure that there's no binding or issues and everything nice and free. We're going to go ahead and start filling our fork oil. Now what you want to do is follow your manufacturer's recommendations on this. As far as how to do this properly with your particular machine, it's different for a lot of them. This particular one here, they're wanting us to fill the outer tube just below the top surface here, and we're going to go ahead and pump this inner rod a bunch of times to get the air out and circulate the fluid. You'll know you're good when you can pull it all the way to the top and there's resistance all the way up and you won't hear any more air bubbles. You want to do this slowly. I'm just going to top her off a little bit more. Make sure we're not sucking air. All right, we'll top it off again. And we're going to move our outer tube up and down about 8 inches. And that sounds good. Now once you're done with that, we just want to give this thing a couple of minutes just to let any residual air in there surface. 5 to 10 minutes should be enough. Once all the air is purged out, we got to set our oil level, and we're going to do this with the outer tube fully compressed and the inner rod fully compressed. And check your manual. This here particular one is saying 140 millimeters, so that means from the top of this outer fork tube 140 millimeters down is where your oil level should be. It's like 5.5 inches. So you can either use a vacuum and draw it out and try to measure it. Using one of these always works the best. It's graduated on here. You can't really see it. It's almost impossible for me to see. I got to put glasses on, but you'd set this to 140 millimeters. You drop this down and we will suck the fluid out until we're pulling air. And that's 140 mil. And how this works is we just hook our syringe up to it. By pulling it out, we create a vacuum and sucks the fluid out. All right, now we know we're at 140 millimeters. We can finish reassembling this front fork. Don't forget your damper tube. What that does is this screw for your compression pushes down on that rod and changes your compression setting in the valve. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is this lock nut. You want to make sure you have at least 20 millimeters of thread sticking up. Now you can torque this cap to your manufacturer's recommendations. Now just make sure that this pushes down properly. And she feels good. One down, one to go. All right, now that I got the forks in, I've got them pretty much even with the top of the clamp. I'm gonna go ahead and snug up. Just lightly snug up the bottoms. This way I can tighten my top caps. Now we have some bleeder screws. You want those to be facing perfectly forward. I'm just going to turn that so it lines up. Now, since I did take the top clamp off, I'm going to go ahead and torque this down, and then we can get the rest of the front end torqued together. Definitely a lot of corrosion in there. It is water. That's what ethanol will do. All right, let's get this thing soaking. Looks like a 25 Pilot Jet. I don't know if that's right. I can't even read them. I gotta soak them. One and a quarter. Let's see if we got any play in this kicker. Feels much better. Alright, well, I went ahead and put some new cables on it, clutch and throttle. I put some new levers on it. I got the carb rebuilt back on. And I got the tank cleaned out real good. Get all that junk that's in there out. We're going to put some non-ethanol. What I've got around here is 90 octane mixed with some 927 synthetic 2-cycle oil at a mixture of 32:1. I think I might need a fuel petcock as well. This is probably a little old. Good enough for now. Should be enough to start. And if this thing runs good, then we will go ahead and do the rest of the beautification, get some new plastics for it, and get that new clutch basket and all that stuff. But for now, let's see if this thing will start up for me and run on its own carburetor. Well, that's really great news. And I figured it would because it did run. I was concerned that the thing was going to have like some kind of wrist pin noise or a lower end knock or something. I don't know how long this thing was run with no oil in the transmission whatsoever. I got to also, once I run this a little bit, see if I got any leaks or anything like that. So let's go ahead and start getting the rest of this thing back together. Make it look real clean. And we can get it out for a test ride. Obviously going to need a petcock. Now I think before I put the radiator shrouds on the seat, which I haven't recovered yet, but I'll probably get a seat cover for it, and these side plastics, I'm going to go ahead and try to wet sand and polish out this tank and essentially ruin it for you guys. Well, at this point I changed my mind on the wet sanding. The only paper that I've got is 600 wet, or that's the finest grit that I've got is 600 wet, and it's very obvious. If we did this with like 1,000 or something like that, it'd probably be okay, or 1,500. But at this point here, I'm just going to go ahead and throw a quick buff on this just to make it look a little better. Runs pretty good. I got to address the rear suspension. It's stiff as a board, so something's going on with there. There's no give in it, but first of all, I appreciate everybody hanging in there. It's been a little while since I put a video out. I was up visiting some family up in Massachusetts for a couple of weeks, and then with the storms in Florida, had friends as refugees from the storm staying with me, so I wasn't able to get a lot of stuff done, but I appreciate you coming back. Well, so that's going to do it for this project. Pretty pleased with how it came out. I'm willing to invest a little bit more money to replace this clutch. It does grab way out at the outer end, not to mention that the clutch basket is broken. It actually runs really well. Put a new petcock on it, stopped our fuel leak. I have to address something with the rear suspension. When you sit on this, it doesn't even move at all, so it's locked up somewhere. I'll have to pull that back apart and check it out. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the bike. It runs real well, pulls pretty good. I don't know how long it's been sitting, so I just need some cobwebs worked out of it. And I think that's going to do it for this video as far as you guys are concerned. I got a couple more things to do for sure. But let me say that I appreciate you watching. Appreciate you subscribing, hitting that thumbs up. Love all your comments. I also appreciate everybody who supported the channel by using my affiliate link to eManual Online and buying a manual. It really helps them, helps me, and it helps you as well. Don't forget, throw down in the comments what you want to see me do with this KX250F 2014. It seems like a shame to let it go, but I'm going to leave that up to you guys. If you want to see me build it, put it back together, go ahead and comment down there. Once again, thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.